live.
So enter broadcast. So I'm entering the broadcast. Okay, so
Yeah, that's good.
it says we're live.
It says we're live, and the clock is running. But,
We've got no one in the chat, but that's okay. We'll have some people joining us, and if we're lucky, we might even have some people watch the replay. So
the 6-second replay that we've got.
that's awesome.
Yeah, there we are. I've got the chat up. Good. That's fine. That's
cool.
right. That was confusing me from before. Why haven't I got the chat?
So for all those people that aren't aware, there's an international cricket match on. Well, a series between Australia and England, and I'm a Kiwi, and the only reason why I'm interested in it is because it's great cricket, and are the Poms going to be able to do
hoping
well?
to stuff the Aussies. Do you know what? I think this time they're well and truly in control by the look of it. Are they 350 ahead? You know, they're not going to make the same mistakes they did in the last Test match, are they? Of allowing England a chance to. Oh, look at morning, Quentin. How you doing? James has arrived. Awake.
Stephen Smith is a genius, isn't he?
He's going through a purple patch, isn't he? He absolutely is going through a purple patch of brilliance to do with that, isn't he? It's amazing.
Cheers,
absolutely
Quentin. Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, steady now. I've got a cup of tea because I'm British and it's 10 to 7 in the morning.
What's Quentin's middle name? Simon?
Quentin. Oh no! Yes, I know what it is. Quentin. It's kind of the best name ever, isn't it? Really,
it's brilliant.
Quentin, you need to get down the law office and change your name by default to Quentin. Oh dear. You get some characters, don't you? And all the better for it.
Simon.
Yeah.
Tell us about
today's show.
Irish guy who's famous for wearing faded jeans,
plaid shirts,
a plaid shirt, long hair, a beaten up Telecaster, and an AC30 amp.
Stratocaster, sir. He did have a Telecaster as well. He played Telecaster as well. But, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've seen Rory Gallagher in about '74, and he was amazing character because he would give the audience everything. But he's a bit like an early Bruce Springsteen in a funny kind of way. In that he played at the Colston Hall, which is my local municipal hall, a couple of thousand people. Good morning, Arvin. How you doing? Hope you're good.
Hi, Arvin.
And my memory of it, I can't remember who supported him, but my memory of it is that he was still playing when the house lights were up at 11 o'clock. You know, when the gig was supposed to be over, and he was still going.
Really?
Yeah. With his plaid shirt and it's his beat up Stratocaster and stuff, and being amazed by that kind of commitment to your audience, really, you know. And in fact, I'm going to show you this. I found this on the internet. It's amazing what you can find on the internet. And these are not mine, but if you.
Oh, have I lost Simon? Hi, guys.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Did I have a blip?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, I found. I'm going to show these because I think they're. Just need to turn off. Blow around. This is this is the rider that he had on the. I don't know if you better see this. Which way? Sorry, this way. Can you see that? I don't know if people could see that. It's actually the rider from the Colston Hall the night I went to see him. It's amazing what you can find. Was it one case of Guinness, one crate of lager, was it something else, and some various mixers stuff.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it? I'll just read it because it says, please find attached the requirements for the above mentioned concert. In addition to these, we would also like to arrange for the road crew to have a meal during the day, and I would be grateful if you could let me know if you could arrange this. Would you please arrange for the following to be in Rory's dressing room prior to the concert, and for the cost to be contrad from the final return? Yeah, one crate of Guinness, one crate of lager, one bottle of Irish whiskey, and suitable mixers. I look forward to hearing from you shortly. So you can tell, when it's not going over the top, is it? It's not the M&Ms without the brown ones kind of malarkey. It's just different things. The other bit is that, if I get close enough, can you see the tickets?
Hold on,
can you see the tickets?
I'm going to present you.
Yeah. Can you see the tickets? See how much they cost?
No, I can't see.
Well, I could tell you, I thought I'd show these because they cost 80 pence.
Wow.
This is 80 pence. This is in 1974. They cost 80 pence, less than £1. Which is, I've been saying for a long time, that when I started going to gigs, you could go to gigs for 50p or 80p. In 1974, you go to Rory Gallagher for 80p, which is amazing, isn't it? Just amazing. That if you sold out the Colton, that'd be £1,600. He's not making a million, is he?
Wow.
Not touring in those days. It's I think that's really interesting. I love little artifacts like that. But just to kind of but yeah, he was brilliant. I really enjoyed the concert. He was fantastic. As I say, and he did have the plaid shirt on and the the Batter Stratocaster, and he always did an acoustic bit in the middle. He always had an acoustic section where he did some acoustic songs. Playing slide and stuff, which is good. It kind of broke it up and just didn't make it all I think he must have been touring with Behind Tattoo. I think that was his album out at the time. Yeah, good record. Yeah, but we go back to. He's interesting about him. He was born in Donegal in 1948, so he's a kind of post-war baby. Like a lot of those guys, coming through post-war, kind of, but still in the austerity period, certainly in Ireland. His place called Ballyshannon with Donegal's on the west coast of Ireland. I've been there once. We went to Burtonport, a place called Burtonport, where all the telephone numbers still were single figures. The pub was Burtonport 3. We had obviously a load of stuff before it, but the people in the village just referred to it as Burtonport 3. So, his dad was an accordion player and sang in played in a ceilidh band. I presume you know what a ceilidh is.
Yeah. Yep.
A sort of dance, dancing.
Yep.
And they have, and his mother was a singer, as well. So he came from a musical family for sure. And he obviously grew up. And the interesting bit, really, because I've talked about this before, and it kind of, he got a ukulele first of all, which he learned to play, and before getting himself a guitar. But then he was one of these kids who got into skiffle. This thing about, I've talked about this on these shows before, the importance of skiffle being, because it was very simple to learn, those Lead Belly songs, and Rock Island Line, particularly Lonnie Donegan, of course, in this country, Rock Island Line and things like that, are really like 1-chord, 2-chord wonders. They're not very complicated, and therefore they're very easy to get into and play. You learn 2 chords. Oh, I can play Goodnight Irene or something, by Lead Belly, so like that. So I think he was part of that. Those massive guitar players who got into by playing skiffle, with Lonnie Donegan,
I'm
and doing that.
I'm going to also just draw that out a little bit more too, Simon.
Mm.
And I had an epiphany because I agree with what you're saying about skiffle. I didn't realize actually how important that is as far as developing, some kind of musical ability. But
Yeah,
that simplicity that you're talking about also gave a lot of these young guys an ability to develop a stage presence. If you look at Rory's some of those YouTube clips and see the way that he's, the energy, the life that he's got. So if you're doing an archaeology now saying that skiffle's important for him developing his love of music, certainly that simplicity, which we shouldn't write off, gives you a great opportunity to work out
yeah,
how you're going
yeah,
to interact with your audience.
yeah. Because you can already play. It's already pretty simple, And of course, you know, we can. I mean, Jimmy Page is the other famous example. But when he appears on that television show in the UK, age 12 or something, playing skiffle, and kind of, what do I want to be? I want to be a marine biologist or whatever he says. I mean, but that's and we've discussed this at length, and I think it's really important to understand that for guitar players, being able to, when you learn to play the guitar, what's the first thing
Yep.
somebody asks you? Can you play a
Yeah.
song? You
Sure.
know, you know, and
What song can you play,
what
Simon?
song can you play? Play me a song. Better be
Not
good.
what tune or what riff. What song?
No, what song? And it's what song? And and certainly in my day, it's what song. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and I think this is, and I know I pick on him because it's fun, but I think there's a bit of a watershed. That after 1979, people learned to play something like Eruption. Which is basically a flashy guitar piece.
Sure.
That take you a long time to learn and stuff.
Sure.
And I think it's a different thing to, as I say, learning two chords and then being able to play a song. And as you rightly
And
say, riffs. Can you play a riff? Can you play? I can play the riff too. Whatever.
is the key here entertaining people? That's what
Yeah. Although
playing the
I don't.
song's about. Entertaining people.
Yeah. It's a different. Do you think? Hang on. All right. This a different. It's a different kind of entertainment to, because Eddie Van Halen playing Eruption is an entertainment. Yeah.
Mm.
But is it? Do you think it's more of a look at me, I can do something really special,
Sure.
rather than a communal thing? I don't know. I'm not saying that Eddie Van Halen is not a communal thing with Eddie Van Halen. That's kind of my initial feeling about it. Would be that it's not a, and it's funny, isn't it? I went to see Michael Jackson, a couple of times. My wife's very into Michael Jackson. I went to see him, and it was like looking at somebody through a window. There was not really any interaction with this. It seemed like he was just doing this show,
Doing
and
a
you watch it, and
thing.
you could have been watching it on the screen at home, TV at home. It was, there was you felt there was like a sort of barrier between him and the audience. This thing between him and the audience. He wasn't just, and that thing, if you're going to a band in 1969, it's all about communing with the audience.
Yep.
So I wonder, and you're absolutely right. You learn to play those songs, and what you're learning to do is commune with your audience, aren't you? You're learning to make a link with your audience, and in a way that's maybe, I'm putting it as a theory, really, it can be shot down. That someone like Eddie Van Halen playing Eruption is not quite the same thing. Think I'm wrong about that? I mean, other people like Kiss and stuff like that absolutely went out, to entertain and to do stuff. So I'm not, it just seems to me that that bit of it is a bit different. It's a different
Look.
quality.
I surprise, surprise. I totally agree with you. I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I come from a blues, rock and roll foundation. So certainly, when I was 13, 14 years old, people would say, "What song can you play?" You know, and you'd try and play, you know. Hard Day's Night, singing along with
yeah.
But
Singing as well,
I
wasn't it?
get
Singing,
what
very
you're saying with
important.
Eddie Van Halen. Certainly with Eddie Van Halen, it's this the yeah. Look, I think what you're because if you look at the guitar gods, look at Cream, Clapton. They were part of a band, and it was like, look at me for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then you'd have the bass player. What am I trying to say here?
Well, in effect, your friends are not going to be
Yeah,
impressed if
I
you
think
do a 10-minute version of, that Sunshine of Your Love, are they, live from the Albert Hall? It's like that's not what when you're first playing a guitar, that's not what people are looking for you to do, are they? That's
well,
for
no, they want to probably sing along with you.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, which is with the hits of the day, and that. But I
Hey,
am
Jack.
interested to Jack Daniels. Good morning. How you doing? That sort of change. That we've talked about this. That kind of change where people were able to. I started playing guitar because of Bob Dylan. Really, because Bob Dylan songs were easy to learn. Hey, you can learn Blowing in the Wind. It's 3 chords. Not very difficult. It's not it's not that difficult to sing either. Yeah. It's only later you discover Dylan always throws in these things that make it difficult. But in the main part, that's quite an easy song to sing. You can learn a few chords, 2 or 3 weeks, you can play it, and you can sing it. So you've got a song. Then you've got a song. And I think that, that if you like, I'm on the tail end of that simplicity and being able to get into a guitar by learning to play songs and things like that. And then in the later 70s, it turns much more into a virtuoso thing. And then people, got lots of people on here, they've had lessons, they're younger than me, they've had lessons, they've had, because that was the way to get into it. Guys, all of a sudden were teaching stuff and things like that. Whereas that didn't really happen when I was 14, 72. Nobody I knew, nobody I could even find, played and taught rock guitar. They just didn't. My cousin, here we are, let's just throw in a name. My cousin, Richard, who's the same age as me, he learned to play the guitar. And he must have been 16 or 17, that kind of stage. He had lessons from Richie Blackmore.
Wow.
From Deep Purple. You're like, really? But yeah, I can remember him going off to have a guitar lesson with Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple.
Wow.
But that was about the first time I'd ever heard of. He lived in London, which had made life a lot easier. But he was the only person who had a guitar teacher who played rock guitar like that. Taught you how to play rock guitar. And yet to get somebody to play rock guitar, you had to go and get Richie Blackmore. It hadn't kind of filtered down yet. There weren't all these, like now, if your kids want to go out and play the guitar, there's a bloke around the corner who'll teach them, blues or whatever.
Dozens of people.
Dozens of them, because, they're, and really interesting, yes, he Jazz Jones, he had lessons from a jazz player, stuff, but he's not quite ready for jazz, yes. I'll bet. But I do think, that's the there's that line somewhere in the 70s about you picked things up, you did things and I'm sure it goes on. It's a continuum. It's not it's not a break, but I think it kind of fundamentally changes going into the 80s, that what you learnt and the way you learnt and it was different to when I started. And I think that
so Rory's self-taught.
Rory's self-taught, yeah, completely self-taught. Learning stuff off the radio, obviously.
Wow,
And still at school he's playing Lonnie Donegan. He's also playing Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran. Rock and roll, similar thing. Simple 3-chord. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. He's a 3-chord thing. Summertime Blues is he's a 3-chord thing, and you can play it really easily. It doesn't have a flashy solo. but it has a vibe, doesn't it? You've got, you know, it has a thing about it, you know, kind of rebellion, you know,
That's it.
that you could tap into, you
It's
know.
got a vibe. It's got something going on.
It's got something going on, you know, in a I think in a kind of fundamental emotional way, I'd say, you know, that you that rebellion, that new, you know, new Technicolor world of stuff. You see, the Mash theme, Jack. Well
Mash.
done.
Suicide is painless.
Suicide is painless. Yes, indeed. Yes.
What
Well
do you
done.
think of
That's
the version that Welsh band did? They did a version of
God.
it.
Was there a later version? Was there? What,
Oh,
Stereophonic? No, Manic Street Preachers.
yeah, they did a wonderful
Was it
version.
Did they? Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, you're talking
Anyway,
about Rory. Sorry.
and it's fine. This show's all about the tangents, and me and my
This
so
show's not about a script.
yeah, another written down guff. Yeah, it's sadly not. That's not what it's about at all. But going to, you know, you know, that's where he was, and obviously he's learning those things off the radio, and you know, and he'd stay up late listening to Radio Luxembourg, and you know, under his pillow like millions of other kids in that era, you know. But really, the radio is his only exposure, you know, at that age, you know, and he's growing up, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13 kind of thing. You know, he also discovers, and a lifelong discovery, really, because I talked about the acoustic part of his show, you know, and he liked Woody Guthrie, Big Bill Broonzy, Lead Belly, and those things. Well, Lead Belly's a direct link into skiffle, you know,
Sure.
sort of Lead Belly, so, you know,
Sure.
so you know, but that never left him, and that kind of that acoustic side to him was always there, you know. You know, certainly when I saw him, you know, he always have an acoustic guitar, you know, with when those microphones, with the harmonicas, with the, you know, the frame, you know, play, yeah, that'd be Roy. Come out, you know, do 3 or 4 songs well, yes, absolutely. Yes, Arvin's kind of agreeing with me. Yeah, people in the crowd could probably sing "Goodnight, Irene." They could participate. So if you're going to see Eddie Van Halen, you're seeing somebody dazzle you with something most people can't do. Yeah, certainly, I can't. Arvin, that's
Oh, I
true.
missed that. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Arvin's hit the nail on the
yeah,
head
yeah,
exactly. And but
yeah.
that doesn't mean that Eddie is
Oh, it's valid because it's a show thing. You know,
sure.
there is an element of you know, and he produced something unique, and you know, and want to keep it a secret a bit, and stuff, you know, play with his back to the audience and stuff, you know. But you know, as Arvin says, it's something to dazzle you
Yep.
with the fact that most people are not going to be able to do it, rather than to commune with you and say, and you sitting there. And I think it has its echoes in punk. This, you know, I could do that. I could
Yeah.
play that. You know,
Yep.
most people are sitting there going, God, how'd you do
I
that?
can't do that. I can't.
I would be.
Yeah, I can't do
You know,
that.
very difficult. But yeah, so you know, I mean, the interesting part because he comes from a musical family, you know, he plays other things. So he can play
Sure.
bass, saxophone, bass guitar, mandolin, banjo, and mandolin. You know, he used to play mandolin in one of his songs. He played mandolin when I saw him for sure.
Wow.
You know, with varying degrees of proficiency, of course. But yeah, learnt lots of instruments. You know, could pick up. You know, it's some people like Brian Jones. You know, is a classic example. You know, pick up a stringed instrument of some description, get a tune out of it.
A
And I'm
multi-instrumentalist.
a multi instrumentalist, yeah. And I think that Rory is a bit like that. You know, probably can pick up an instrument and get something out of it. You know,
Wow.
but, so you know, learns all those things. Taught himself to play slide guitar and stuff, which is
Yeah,
obviously an integral
out,
part of his.
outstanding slide player.
Yeah, and but the interesting bit that's his next bit really what he does is he starts playing his show bands. I don't know if you know about show bands. Show bands are a big part of Irish musical history.
Yeah, we had them here in New Zealand in the 50s and 60s.
Did
Yep.
you? That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. What a
Yes.
sort of echo. Yeah. In a way that I don't think we did in the UK much. Interestingly, maybe they weren't called show bands. They seem to have a sort of a particular thing in Ireland about having bands that played top 40 hits, and doing that, and they seem to be bigger in Ireland. I mean, I think that one of the things we have to remember is I think that Rory's probably him and Van Morrison, probably fairly contemporary, were probably the first two rock people to come out of Ireland. You know, in that way, in that kind of part of, I can't think of anybody really before him who made that transition to the UK, playing his own music, except Van Morrison. In them, I think them must be 64, 65, that kind of thing.
Right. I think you're right.
So I think he's in the vanguard of making a transition between playing in show bands, and he plays in a successful show band, and they made money out of it. Toured the UK and Ireland and stuff. Started to influence. Apparently, started to influence the the show band into playing Chuck Berry and various other things like that. Before he left in '65 to do his own thing. Amazing kind of but that grounding that we're talking about of playing top 40, of playing songs that the audience will dance to principally, will know, they'll dance to them, they'll have a feeling about them and stuff, very important in the development, as you said earlier, of a stagecraft, of of that thing about his great thing about communing with his audience.
How did Taste start? Am I jumping the gun here?
No. You're not jumping the gun. It basically he decided that he was gonna turn. He was gonna do his own thing. Because I think one of the things about Rory is that he was always a band leader. Yeah,
even when he was. So doing his own thing was forming Taste at the. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
That's right. Yeah, so cool. He left. They're called the Impact. He left. Yeah. He left the show band in '66, and started really putting his own band together. And that's when he formed Taste. The 3-piece blues thing, which is, 66, that's just when it was all going off, So in a sense, he was fitting into that genre.
And they were a hot band.
They were a hot band. They really were. They supported Cream at the Albert Hall on their farewell tour. And they toured within America. I think they toured with Blind Faith in America as well. So yeah, they had a lot going for them, and because I think, Rory played really well. But yes, in that, I hesitate to call it a tradition because there probably isn't, but alongside Cream, Jimi Hendrix, those power trios, playing blues, and that's what Taste were. They were a power trio. They played blues, and he did 3 years played at the Isle of Wight Festival and stuff, So, and obviously you can see these things on YouTube. There's film of him playing the Isle of Wight Festival on YouTube. Amazing kind of. What does Jack say? I don't know. Is it the local band? Yeah, Rose Tattoo. Yeah, I remember them. Yes, yeah, the Choir Boys, Ice House. Yeah, and the Emmanuel Brothers. Yeah, Tommy Emmanuel. Yeah,
bands. All those Aussie bands that he mentions were hot and popular here in New Zealand. There was a lot of communion between Australia and New Zealand and music and bands. A lot of crossing over.
Did they play mainly covers? Were they mainly covers in the early days? I mean, playing rock and roll stuff.
The Angels and No, they're all.
I only remember Rose Tattoo as being a rock band, but originals, yeah.
Oh no, they were all original.
Early in their career, they still did originals.
Well, I'm sure Jack will. I'm sure Jack will correct us, but they probably started out, maybe doing covers, but
no, he's saying no, they were all originals.
Okay.
No, from the beginning. Okay, fine, yeah, interesting, yeah.
Wow.
My feeling about Jack, were they a bit later in the 70s? My memory of Rose Tattoo is they were late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s, all those bands.
Yeah.
When it was cool to go to the pub and get pissed and sing and dance with bands. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, that's interesting because obviously that's kind of later, isn't it? When people started off writing their own things, whereas obviously Rory didn't start off writing his own things. He started off.
So Taste didn't do any original stuff, Simon.
They did no, they did original stuff, but they also did blues covers as well. I mean,
Okay.
Rory's quite. Excuse me. Rory's quite deeply into the blues, so he would do
Sure.
quite more obscure covers. But yeah, quite a lot of his stuff is written by other people, and and that went on throughout his career. Not all of his stuff is his original, so he would mix them in and kind of in a way that probably the way he learned in the show bands, to do. But that coming up, playing, learning how songs were constructed, learning to play them, with the show bands, obviously stood, But yeah, so taste, did sort of 3 years worth, and were pretty successful, and I think pretty successful in bringing Rory to a bigger international audience, in America and and in the UK as well. He's done tours with the show band in the UK, but not quite the same thing. But he, then he went and really went on his own, and did Rory Gallagher. What we know and love really is Rory Gallagher. Started off again with another 3-piece, but he also had a keyboard player as well. In the when I saw him, he was a 4-piece with a keyboard player. Had an organ
Wow.
player.
So just hold that keyboard thing, because isn't it interesting that Stevie Ray Vaughan later on in his career got a keyboard player too?
What, Reese Wygans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting
Well,
parallel.
I mean, we've posited this theory before, haven't we? As a with Eric Clapton, that at some point you need more color than just a 3-piece, don't you? What you do, if you're playing, particularly, I'd say maybe, the sound of a Strat, not being, an Eric. We've talked about this, Eric, when he plays a 3-piece, he plays a Gibson. When he goes into, bigger bands, he plays Fenders.
Sure.
When he does, was it Doyle and Bramlett? Not Doyle and Bramlett, Delaney and Bonnie. Mixing up my generations brilliantly there. He started playing a Strat because, you needed a different type of sound to play with somebody's keyboard, bass, and drums than you do when you're playing with with just a power trio 3-piece, where there's a lot of space to fill. And therefore, I would say Gibson is more applicable to filling that space than Jimi Hendrix belied that, but to a certain extent. But he had pedals and things. Lest we forget, and he was a genius.
Simon, it's okay to have general theories.
yeah, I know. I don't mind.
Yeah. Just carry on talking, Simon. I'm just going to let my dog out. Give me 10 seconds.
No worries. So, I think that's for me. That's just a little theory for Yes, I think, Jack, you're right. Most blues players do mature. And it becomes about the music. But well, yes, yeah. When you start to remember you add horns, then you lose money. But I think that Rory never did horns. I don't think. I mean, he very much stuck to the 4-piece thing. But certainly having the keyboards there, the organ player there, to kind of to give it a bit more color, a bit more, and of course, you can get the keyboard player to take a solo, can't you? Give yourself a bit of a rest, kind of thing, which I think is really important, really. But and obviously, famously, Rory famous for his live records. The Irish tour and the European one. And I told you this story last week. All 4 sides of I went with a friend of mine to buy a jumper, a sweater, and I listened to all 4 sides of Rory Gallagher live in Europe whilst he tried on jumpers in this shop. Unable to find one that fitted him because he's a rower and he had really big forearms. And in those days, jumpers were quite tight, and so he kept putting these jumpers on. They're like I don't think this is going to work. So I tried on. So went around the whole shop
That's a lot of jumpers.
Literally, an hour and a half of messing about, Tony messing about in the shop, and me listening to Rory Gallagher. All four sides. Well, did you ever? Wake up with those bullfrogs on your mind. Which is wonderful. So that's one of my sort of silly memories of listening to one of those those live records. I think the other thing we should say about him at this point is that he toured Ireland throughout the 70s, both North and Southern Ireland. And I think it's really important to say one of the few musicians who toured Northern Ireland during the Troubles.
Yes.
And really, interestingly, in a non-sectarian way. So he brought audiences together, both Protestants and Catholics together at his gigs.
His gigs were mixed, and they got on.
They were mixed, and they got on. And I think there was a certain amount of terrorists didn't mess with Rory.
Wonder why? Why? Because he was an Irish treasure.
Yeah,
he was a.
Yeah. We could talk about the Rory Gallagher Ireland, the Live in Ireland, the Irish 1974 live album, is a really interesting record for that. And if I could paint a picture, a scene that you get, of kind of Ireland at that time, because I don't think everybody necessarily quite understands, what Ireland was like. Belfast in the 70s was in the throes of an economic depression. Sectarian violence triggered by the bloody Sunday killings by the British Army. Hardly anyone toured Northern Ireland. It was too dangerous. The army patrolled the streets. There were checkpoints manned by armed soldiers, and you were searched going in and out of the city centre. I can remember going in the early 80s and being sort of, weirded out by the fact that, you had to go through this checkpoint to and you had to be searched, to make sure you weren't taking any explosives and stuff like that, which is like, unknown to me who lived in Bristol, and these things don't happen. The city was divided along sectarian lines, Protestant and Catholic. They each had their own areas, tense borders between them. I'm sure you've seen footage of the Orange marches, where they marched around the edge of the Catholic areas, to a hail of stones and fury, and sectarian killings commonplace. Car bombs, regular occurrences all over the city, and lots of innocent people killed and maimed. So into this kind of hotbed of unrest and kind of sectarian division and violence comes Rory every year. You turn up, play at the Glasgow City Hall, and they became kind of beacons of non-sectarianism, in Belfast. And it is said that people didn't, Rory's not a political person, but this is a kind of political statement about turning up every year, playing Belfast to a non-sectarian audience, and I think that the terrorists. It's said that the terrorists kind of left him alone, and into that comes in 74 he arrives, in this kind of madness. Really, there had been car bombs all over the city prior to the gig. And they just, but it all stopped for Rory. Rory would go and play, and have that communal thing with his audience, And it's a brilliant. There's a film. There's a guy called Tony Palmer who made. He made, what do you about the program? He made another 12, 13 part series, pop music series as well. They're all really good. But he made a film of it. And what's amazing about the film is that he's on stage with Rory. So Rory's playing and he's beside him. So you can see very close up, and then you see pictures of the audience, going mad and things, and kind of, But that inspiration that he provided then led to people like Stiff Little Fingers and the Undertones. I think people, the Stiff Little Fingers, particularly being outspoken opponents of that sectarian violence and things. That completely, kind of, tried, in a very small way to make Belfast a single city and a unifying force. Which I think it was really cool. The unifying force of music.
I think one of the great things about Rory, from what I've picked up, is that he purposely, and intentionally kept away from any kind of political discussion. And I respect any musician that wants to keep away from that. I don't want musicians to stick their nose in and give me an interpretation of a song. I want to go away and work out my own meaning. And I suppose in that Irish context that you're talking about, Simon, it's a matter of life and death. My grandmother's Irish,
completely
Irish Catholic, so I do have an understanding of the situation that you're talking about. So if you said the wrong thing or the wrong word in the wrong place,
you could be in serious trouble.
Yeah,
I mean, very serious trouble. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about musicians and getting involved in politics. I don't know if you've ever seen this. You only have to witness the bass player from Blur, Alex James, being on there's a British political program called Question Time. Yeah, where you have a panel of 4 or 5 politicians and stuff, or 2 or 3 politicians, and maybe somebody from the media or somewhere else, and in front of a live audience, and live audience ask them questions, and they go around the panel, and the panel answer the questions. Alex James, go and have a look at it on YouTube if you want. Why rock musicians shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a political program. That's the epitome.
I will, Simon. I will.
It completely is the epitome of why you should keep away from that stuff. Unless you're really up on it, or it's very difficult, to do those things. Oh, chat problem. Yeah, okay, there we are. I see. So you'll have some feel for it, Jack. Yeah. Just on the yeah. But and obviously, yes. I mean, Jack's talking about Gary Moore and stuff, and Phil Lynott and things like that. They would be inspired by Rory,
sure,
doing his thing and stuff. So, it's, I mean, it, as I said, there weren't, he was like the first. Him and probably Van Morrison were like the first, and I think he was probably. I don't know if I can have a look because I can't remember. But I might go out on a limb and say that he might have predated Van, but he may not have done them. Started off in as a kind of earlier, but certainly one of the first. And obviously, later on, as we said, Gary Moore and Phil Lynott, following in his footsteps, but not, but after, somebody's paved the way, so that you don't have to do quite the work, do you? Because there's somebody else with a reputation who's already going out and doing it. So I think that Rory, what Rory does is Rory tours, makes records, tours. His great thing is to go out and tour with with, I'd say, in this 4-piece, with Rod Diath on drums and Lou Martin on keyboards. They went out. That's what they did, and that's what I saw. This great kind of tight rock and roll band. One of the things, if you watch any of his films, one of the things that he does, and the Stones do it as well. And you sure you notice this, that they all get round the drum. Have you noticed Keith Richards stands like, Charlie Watts is like here, wherever, Keith Richards, Charlie Watts is there, isn't he? They're not on this big stage. What interests me, they have these big stages, and yet they're in this little area, Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I mean, We can ask him.
And Mick Jagger's running a marathon.
Yeah, he runs around, run around this massive stage, and
but the guitar players,
they come out, don't they? And then they go back again. They don't. There's a bit of go over here and a bit of, but in the main, they play, and that's what you notice about Rory is, he's standing right beside the drummer, or he's looking at him, he's turning around, looking, while he's not singing, of course, but there's not, it is that thing about being a tight unit playing, and we're not all spread out across the stage, we're kind of, and miles from each other and stuff like that. Actually, you've still got the essence of a little club band that are playing in a club, and all, and that jammed in a small space, and that, they don't spread out. They keep it, keep it in a little tight thing. Seems to help the playing and stuff. But so I think that and obviously there's the famous story of him being auditioned for the Rolling Stones to replace Mick Taylor in '75 in Rotterdam. I think it's just I think he just jammed with them. By all accounts, there was just jamming went on, but I don't think a serious offer was made, and I don't think, and we've discussed this, haven't we, on this before, that having had Mick Taylor, who was definitely the kind of the virtuoso. I don't know if you feel about it. My feeling is that what Keith likes is he likes the Brian Jones era better. He likes that intertwining of the guitar, so you don't quite know who's playing what and stuff like that. And my feeling is that he wanted somebody more like that, so hence they got Ronnie Wood. New boy Ronnie Wood, been in the Stones for 44 years. It's that they got him because he wanted that kind of interweaving. I'll play a bit, you play a bit, I'll play a bit, rather than Keith being the rhythm guitarist pretty much, and Mick Taylor doing that kind of solo thing, which is obviously what Rory would have. Rory would have replaced Mick Taylor with Mick Taylor.
I don't think the Rolling Stones would have appreciated having someone that would have been a direct competition to Mick and Keith. Someone that's full of vibrant energy, who liked clearly rocking around the stage, and someone who, even though he was a good guy, had a bit of a bad boy image, didn't he? Rory had, even though he probably wasn't. There's a famous quote by Bob Geldof saying, that he spoke like a choir boy, and he was very nice, and but when he grabbed that guitar, that was his prayer book.
Yeah. The tougher. Yeah, I mean, there's no accounts of Rory being a punchy boy.
well, before YouTube, Simon, when I looked at that Irish tour and photos of him and guitar, and being an Irishman, I had these images in my head, that he was he'd knock you for six if he didn't like
you. Do you think so? That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I sort of picked that up about Rory at all. By all accounts, very soft-spoken, very kind of, but he must have had some internal steel to be a band leader.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to be afraid of changing things around too much. If it was necessary, kind of thing. And I think that, you absolutely, had to be on it. It was like that to
and then we're lucky to have YouTube, and you look at some of these clips and Rory's talking, he's very nice, he's just he's just a nice guy. I just the impression I had of him 20 years ago looking at these photos was just clearly
Yes, it's quite interesting. The image slightly at odds with his actual persona.
Wrong.
Well,
but no, I agree with you. He must have had some, being an Irishman, but he probably would have told you, look, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you a third time, get out of my way.
Yes, yeah. But you've got to be able to turn up, talk about the '74 album, to be able to turn up in Belfast, where most rock acts just refused to go, because it was too dangerous, and to be able to go on stage, unify a crowd, a couple of thousand people, and absolutely, nail it down, get people to forget all that secretarial stuff and just play, is a political statement. It is saying, you lot have got to get yourselves together. Stop bombing the hell out of each other. We've got to find a way forward. From this, and not overtly, but just saying, this is where I do. This is my home. This is where we play. This is what we're doing. Underestimate the power of turning up and playing. You don't have to make a grand. You might have to make a banner, grand political statement. You turn up and play. And and I'm sure, in a sense, the Stones, you see the same, by playing non-sectarian, gigs in the '60s in America, that's quite a powerful political statement, without saying, didn't they? And they had Black American acts supporting them and all that stuff.
What I heard is venues back in the UK were just out there, so. You didn't have that situation here in New Zealand. So you'd have Irish Irish Catholic guys on one side for the gig, Protestant guys on the other side for the gig. Rory would come on, everybody would turn up, have a great time. And you look at some of the clips of the live events, these young guys are headbanging before headbanging became cool. So you got two Catholic guys standing next to two Protestant guys having a great time, half lagered, or Guinness or whatever.
Guinness.
And at least for 2 hours in their lives, having a great time, and then hopefully, I'm going to say this, the power of music. These guys have booked out, and maybe.
But yeah, I mean, it is interesting that what you were talking about, that kind of bravura and bravado of him on stage, contrast with this kind of offstage, slightly contentious or what. whether Mick Taylor, the best everybody knows that the best Rolling Stones version is the one with Mick Taylor.
Yep.
The way to be shot down in flames for that. That's obviously not true, but I mean, there are a lot of people who say that, and but I enjoy.
Absolutely, Jack Daniels. That Hyde Park concert, absolutely, hands down. I've mentioned it before. I'm a Mick Taylor fan. Absolutely.
Oh, me too. And that Brussels affair. You've only got to listen to that Brussels affair gig that that I sent you. It's just amazing. Mick Taylor's playing on that. It's great. But that kind of very interesting, that kind of very lead guitar thing that he does, isn't it? Very separate from Keith's thing.
Oh.
And I can see that Jack says it. Keith obviously didn't like it. I don't know whether Keith didn't like it. He doesn't say so in his biography, does he? He didn't.
No.
But not suggesting he would. But I've not heard anywhere that there was a kind of professional jealousy about it. Really, was there? That's the way the band worked in that period. 69 to 75. That's how it worked, and they got somebody in who could really, who was a lead guitarist, and so, the roles, when you're in that thing, the roles change, don't they? They change between, and also, that thing about, as I say, Keith, I think he liked that Brian Jones thing. We were talking about that Rolling Stones, the '60s Rolling Stones, where we couldn't quite work out who was singing, and you're not quite sure who's playing bits, are you? Very much a kind of integrated band thing, and I think do you think Keith wanted that more than he wanted another Mick Taylor? Therefore, people like Clapton, Gallagher, whoever else supposedly auditioned, and I think there was, just them kind of, not really. I don't get the impression that's really where Keith wanted to go with it. Really, he wanted that more integrated thing. I could be wrong about that, but that's my feeling about it. That he, that's what he wanted. It's been successful for another 44 years, isn't it? So he's right. Shock horror probe. Keith Richards was right. But as I say, go back to the Rory thing. That I don't think he would have fitted in. Really, do you? You can't have too many band leaders in a band, can you? It's not going to end well. And Rory's obviously by that stage he's been a band leader for getting on for 10 years. He's had taste. He's had his own. But to go into band and be specifically not the band leader, with Jagger and Richards, that really isn't going to work, was it? In any real sense.
Another Stevie Ray Vaughan parallel. Stevie Ray Vaughan, could have ditched Double Trouble and gone on that world tour with David Bowie, and he turned around and said, "Look, I've got a band.
I've got things to do."
I'd rather fail in my band than be a guitar player and someone else's. So
completely, yeah. I think that's right, isn't it? You do that, but going back to Rory, I think that he did that, and then obviously dropped back down to a three-piece. And I think the rest of his career was just done as a three-piece kind of thing, stripping it back a bit kind of thing. But I mean, interesting. I was interested. We collaborated with Jerry Lee Lewis and Muddy Waters, in London, in their London session. So obviously still in with the blues guys, doing what he wanted to do in terms of blues and things like that. And I think that those things are important to him, in like they were all over the place. And obviously going, playing then, doing all of that through the 80s and into the 90s, and when he died, sadly, the old liver transplant thing, I think. But I think it was at this stage. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Strat. Let's talk about the famous. The famous Strat.
So I've always been, and just hold on, Simon. I've always been a fan. So I've always been a fan. That's Rory.
Yeah.
So that's Fender custom Stratocaster that you can get from obviously Fender. I've always loved the white pit guard on the beaten up Sunburst Alley with the ebony so this is a custom vibe Stratocaster that I had.
This is from the Walton Custom Shop.
Yeah. So this is my tribute to Rory Gallagher.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, you need a bit more. Got too much paint on it.
Yeah, I'm going to hit the road next week and I'm going to bash it.
To bash it to hell and back. Yeah.
But that had. I'll just get you back on here, Simon.
That's right. There we are.
So that guitar originally had that, which is like a pearloid, dark pearloid.
Yeah.
But I'm not a technician, Simon, at all. And I always wanted, and I had the spare white pick guard. And for some strange reason, I thought you had to do all this bloody soldering and stuff like that to change it. And I came across a video on YouTube and watched it one night. And this
Yeah.
guy's talking about changing the pick guard. And I really, okay, so it's just a matter of unscrewing it, taking the screws off, screwing the pick guards and the springs back on.
Yeah.
Away you go.
And then just solder 2 wires, is it? I think it's just 2 wires, isn't it?
And I didn't take anything off. No soldering.
Oh, right. And no soldering at all. Do you not have to solder it to the input socket?
No, because I'm just taking the hardware off.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, yeah.
And because all the picks are still in there.
Yeah, then screwing it back on the other one. Yeah.
Screwing it back on.
Oh, yeah. How much is yes. It's relic guitars they're a thing of themselves, aren't they? I still can't make my mind up about them. I can understand completely. If you buy a relic guitar that's got a biffo, then you don't care if you hit it on whatever, because it's just another dent. But there's a part of me that also likes to buy a new guitar and play it, do the Rory thing, you buy a new guitar and you play it for, for 20 years and, it comes out kind of old and bad, but has a kind of thing to it, that, because it's been you sweating it, No,
I didn't have to do any soldering. No soldering.
Because he left the hardware as it was, Jack. She's saying he took the pickups off one pick guard and put them on the other pick guard. So
all you're doing is just taking your knobs off, pulling them off, unscrewing them, unscrewing this, and then just popping the pickups out. So
yeah. So yes. What do you think about relic guitars? I mean, obviously you've done one there. It's kind of was it fun to do? Kind of
Yeah.
How did you approach it? Did you do you have a sort of design in your head, or do you just kind of go at it?
I just went at it, and I wasn't going to put a black pick guard on, even though Stevie Ray Vaughan is a big influence in my life. It was always wanted to put a white pick guard on it, but it took me a couple of months to make the decision, to have the courage to do it, because it's a custom vibe. It's a $900 guitar.
Yeah. Not a cheap guitar.
No. But, no. I'm happy I've done it.
Yeah. Anyway, just we're talking a little bit about Rory's guitars. It's a 1961 Stratocaster, obviously a Sunburst, and reputedly it was the first in Ireland, and it had been ordered by another musician called Jim Connolly, who was a member of the Irish show band, and he ordered a cherry red one, and then obviously that didn't turn up, and it turned up as a Sunburst one, which he didn't really want. So I think he played it for a few months and then decided he didn't want it. So it was up for sale as a second-hand guitar in '63 in a shop, and he bought it. Rory Gallagher bought it for like £100, which in those days was quite a lot of money. But nevertheless, it that's what he wanted, and I think he wanted it because he. And his mother, I think his mother helped him, and him saying, he can play rhythm and lead. He can play both parts with his guitar. We won't need a rhythm player, so I can earn more money and pay it off. I'm not sure if that's true, but, but that Strat became his Strat, and he, obviously, as Jack says, he had sort of very acidic sweat, which is why the finish, because obviously they had they weren't poly finish, they were what's it called, the other finish that chips off easily. Anyway, so obviously he he could basically he says his sweat acted like a paint thinner to prematurely age the guitar, sweated it away, kind of thing. It's it's and obviously there have been various modifications. Apparently, only the middle pickup is original. Rewired the bottom tone pot, so we just had a master control. Nitro cellular, I think it's nitro. That's it. That's what I'm thinking about. And things like that. Install a 5-way selector instead of a 3-way selector, and so like a lot of instruments, then that era instruments, it's not original by some distance. It's not a 61 Strat. It's had different pickups, and as I say, it's got a 5-way switch. You change the wiring a bit, messed about. Because it's interesting. It's only in retrospect, is that kind of vintage guitar become valuable and stuff like that. Whereas if you bought it in 1963, it's just your tool, isn't it? And
how many nicks did it have on it, Simon? We know Stevie Ray Vaughan's number ones had half a dozen nicks.
Similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Because these guys are gigging with those guitars. What, every night? Rory would be gigging every night, or every second night?
Every second, completely, yeah.
2-hour gigs.
2-hour gigs. Thousands of gigs over the period. Over that period. Of playing, sweating on that instrument. And it's not surprising, to be honest, that But if a guitar's only 10 years old, that classic vibe you just showed, you in 40 years' time, somebody said to you in 40 years' time, oh, that'd be worth $3,000 if it's in the original condition. Well, my point exactly. That you think about it in a different way than if you just picked it up for £100. It becomes your instrument. 5 years later, half the finish is gone. Nitro, and it looks like a relic anyway. It looks battered to hell. You have no real compunction about changing the changing the tuners, changing the pickups, changing the wiring configuration, putting in a 5-way switch. Yeah, I like that in between sound. I'll have a and I think that it's interesting, that if your view of a guitar is it's a tool, not a vintage guitar, which you're looking for all original, as good a condition as possible, which is what happens, another really good example of that is David Gilmour's Black Strat, that sold for $3.9 million or whatever it was. That is not an original thing. It's had different necks on it, none of the pickups. He's took them out. Put in something else. Find the sound you want, find the thing you want to do. There's no thought that in 40 years' time that guitar will be worth a disassociation that makes it worth a lot of money. But that. If you think what a 61 Strat is worth now, you get $25,000, something like that for it. Maybe a bit more, kind of thing. But he's not thinking about it like that. It's just, this is my guitar, this is my tool. If it's a bit broken or I want to do something different to it, I'll be doing something different with it then. I approve.
Why did he play AC30s and not Marshalls? Do you know?
See, that's an interesting point. I think it's that he just generally preferred smaller amps to famously, Brian May, of course, got his sound from Rory, didn't he?
Yes.
Because he went to see him, and his AC30 and he had a treble booster, didn't he? He had a Dallas Rangemaster treble booster, and that's what Brian May has to make. And he's got a different guitar, so it's but yeah, he went to see Rory and said, "How do you get your sound?"
Same with the Edge. The Edge saw Rory too.
And some of that kind of legacy of through Irish guitar playing stuff. Is interesting, but I think he just obviously used some Fenders and he used things, but you're right, he used smaller combos and he didn't use big Marshall stuff. I think probably like it's a bit like Joe Bonamassa, isn't he? Went So once you get a sound, you have a sound, don't you? And if you start off with a Vox 8030 and you get a Dallas Rangemaster treble booster, and other bits and pieces, then that's your sound, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, apparently he also used Marshall combos, but pretty combo guy. But once you've got a sound and you go, well, part of that sound is the Vox 8030. You then have a different sound if you go to a 412 Marshall stack. It's not going to be the same as a Vox. And if most guitar players, have like a sound and have a sound and stuff like that. That actually, once you've got the sound, you go, well, that's my sound. Unless you specifically want to change it, and do something else with it. But I can see. I mean, it's I mean, Joe Bonamastra's a classic case. Went through the Marshall period, didn't he? But now he has those two Fender
Basemans.
They're special JB Deluxe things, aren't they? Kind of 80 watts, and the two Dumbles, which are basically they're Fenders, basically. So basically, he's using Fender combos, 4 of them, very loud, but pretty much that's what he's using, And I think that
Jack's saying that Vox has always been about headroom.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. Well, certainly clean, aren't they? They're not known for their overdrive. So I mean, obviously, used a tube screamer and various other things to get some overdrive on it, But pretty much, pretty much what you're talking about is him having that kind of clean sound,
So did he experiment much, or was it a fluke?
I think he went through quite a lot of different. He did play Marshall combos and Fender combos and things like that. He had Ampegs and various other things. And it's so I think he one of the funny things that I came across is that he used an Ibanez tube screamer and stuff like that, with most people doing it. Apparently, later on, he he was an early adopter of the Boss ME5. Which is a kind of like my GT3 kind of all-in-one effects pedal. But you can't imagine Rory having one of those effects units like I've got, can you? I've got that Boss GT3, which is thousand sounds in one box kind of thing.
Yeah,
I can't imagine Rory. You imagine Rory plug in, play, don't you? Don't imagine him with a multi-effects unit. But obviously, it had some sounds in there that he liked and stuff. But I think that he did do different amps and things like that, and and different things like that. But obviously, once you've got your sound, then especially if, I think Rory's, that you're not going to stray too far. So I think mainly, but I mean, they use PCL vintage amps, company who built amps for him. Stramp. I've never heard of Stramp amplifiers, but apparently use those. I've no idea who they are. But yes, Jack. I completely see that. Loud as you need with zero color, so you can create color another way. Yeah. I pretty much like that with my PV. I love my Fender. Just plug straight into my PV. There's nothing like it. The sound. Keen on learning how to just play your instrument, and get a sound just with one thing rather than just having effects. But one click to switch out 5 pedals, why not? Well, indeed, I'm with you, Jack. I have a Boss GT3, 1 pedal, which means I should be drummed out of the Union of Guitar Players for it. But it does a whole lot of things well enough for me to, and it's built like a rock, because I said before, I've had it for 20 years, no sign of failing. It's properly built, seriously properly built, massive thing. So I know, I think really what you could say about Rory is once he got his sound, variations a bit, but pretty much, that's what he played, and that's what he did, and kind of that's what you expect, don't you? Do you know? Do you know if he had much of an effect on Stevie Ray Vaughan? Andrew, is he one of? I don't know much about Stevie Ray Vaughan, but obviously I know he played with David Bowie and all of that. But Did he have an effect on Stevie Ray Vaughan? How Stevie Ray Vaughan approached it at all? Or was he
I'm
doing
reading
something?
a new biography on Stevie as we speak, and I haven't
Yeah.
come across any reference at the moment to Rory, other than any connections you and I and everybody else is making. I don't know. That will be interesting. I'll keep you informed. I think what's
Yeah.
interesting though about that situation is the tube screamer issue that you've spoken about, getting that clean sound, because Stevie Ray Vaughan loved that clean sound, and everything else, like Jack Daniels is saying too, is
Yeah.
the built on top of that clean sound. And again, half a dozen shows ago, Simon, you mentioned the first thing that you do when you listen to a new guitar or a new amp is find the cleanest sound or tone that you can possibly get. Hey, Hack, and
Hey,
and
Guitar,
build
how you doing?
and build on that, which is you know interesting.
Mm. Yeah. Do you know that video I put up of me just playing a guitar with it has had more than 200 views?
Wow.
Just me going, this is what it sounds like clean. More than
Mm.
200 views. It's hilarious in many ways. It's kind of, it's bizarre, isn't it? What you could put up and people listen to. I hope it's been useful for some people as well. But I think that Hack just got home from a gig. Hope it was a good gig.
Awesome.
Hack, was it good? Hope it was cool. See, Jack saying he'd expect Stevie was aware, but his influence is more Albert King, T-Bone
Yep.
Walker, those guys. Yeah, more American influences for sure. Yeah. I just wondered
But
if he'd.
they had similar guitar techniques. If you have a look at some of the footage of Rory playing, man, he's aggressive. He's thrashing that guitar, Simon. He's not playing it
Yeah.
like Eric Clapton does. Eric does not thrash a guitar, um, and
No,
nor
he
does
doesn't, is he? No, not in the
no,
same way, does he? No.
and nor does the Pink Floyd guitarist you just mentioned earlier,
David Gilmour. David Gilmour.
Gilmore.
Yeah.
They're not known, but you look at Rory and Stevie. Stevie stands on his guitar and
Yeah. Stomps around on it and kind of yeah. Yes, there's a kind of that fire in the playing, isn't there? That I know what you mean. Yeah, no, not you don't have to have it, but it's kind of some people got it and some people don't. That's interesting. I mean it.
Simon, I just want to do a quick shout out to Hack and say, love your channel, Hack. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah,
Love your
fantastic
Harley
fun.
Benton review.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, love.
I think. Do you know what the best thing about that Harley Benson review is? That you could tell he was genuinely surprised
Yes,
about the
no
quality of
bullshit.
it.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was absolutely. I think that was really impressive. You could tell.
Mm,
It's like, do you know what? This guitar. I wasn't expecting much. Being the great Les Paul player.
yeah.
It's
Well,
it's
he knows it's Les Pauls.
Oh, look, I said Mitch Heyman. Mitch, good morning. How you doing? Well, morning
Hey,
in the
Mitch.
UK, anyway.
But
So really good. Yeah,
good
I just
review. Good review.
yeah,
And it was
interesting.
also nice too that Eric gave him a shout out too on his channel. That was
Did
really
he?
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really
Well,
cool. So, no,
deserved.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you talking of guitar? Sorry, we're going tangenting. As you have you caught up with the live wires with Brian Stewart and Dave R? That's really good. That's really good. Really funny.
Yeah,
Yes.
the lake crew. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, but yeah, the live wires. That's
Yeah.
great. I've been enjoying that a lot.
Yeah.
As a man, Brian Stewart is a man with unbounded enthusiasm, and this is only a good thing.
Yeah.
Hats off to him. And Dave's dogs. They're always ooh. Lovely. It's real. I like it a lot. It's really good. Yeah, see, Mitch Heyman's at 3:05 a.m. Well done, Mitch. Well done, you're still up.
And Mitch's channel too. Enjoy your playing, Mitch. I think your playing has got better over the last 6 months. Yeah, I've noticed the quality in your playing. Keep it up.
Cool. I must check that out.
Mm.
You have lots of channels, don't you? It's difficult to keep up with them all. Kind of what's going on?
I try next time. I don't watch much TV.
No. I wander around. I have a lot of stuff on my iPad. I have it like a radio.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of have a lot of stuff on, like just having a radio on. You know, you don't really need to the pictures of just us talking heads. But actually just like having it. People talking away. It's nice whilst I'm at work or something, which is really good. Mitch cuts out all the mistakes. It's all in the edit, Mitch, is it? Well done. So it should be. I'm sure that's not the case, but we're allowed a little mistake here and there. But, yes, but I mean, going back to Mr. Gallagher, obviously he used that white Telecaster. He had a white Telecaster as his slide guitar. That he used, and he had a dobro resonator as an acoustic guitar and stuff. So he didn't just play the Strat. He played other instruments as well. Obviously, and in later life he had a Patrick Eggle as well, kind of, that he played. So I think I think the Strat may have got a bit old, had to retire it and get a new guitar, kind of thing. But I think it's important to say that. Sorry,
where is his Strat?
I think it's. I don't know. I think the family still have it. I don't think it's displayed anywhere, and it certainly hasn't been sold. I think that his nephew have it, Donald Gallagher. I think he has it because I think he lent it to Joe Bonamassa in 2011 to play it at Hammersmith Apollo and stuff. Yeah, and
his brother. I think
is it his brother or his nephew, Donald? Anyway, I can't remember. But I thought it might be his nephew because I saw something about him. But I think that it's important to say that he wasn't just a Strat player. He did play other things and things like that. What, Rory? Rory didn't use heroin, did he, Jack? I'm sure he didn't. I thought he was a drinker more than anything else. Anyway.
Wow.
I don't think he did. Maybe Jack's not talking about him. Maybe he's talking about somebody else. But
I wasn't aware that.
Right, okay,
I didn't know that Mick Taylor was a hero.
Yeah. Well, that's why one of the reasons why he left the Stones, isn't he? Because he did. I think he did a bit of the trying to keep up with Keith.
Yeah,
not necessarily a good idea. We didn't know that at the time. No.
I thought that was because he wasn't getting paid.
No. I think that's. I mean, Jimmy Page. Yes. Right.
Oh yeah. He's on lots of videos off his face. Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. I'm getting the wrong stick and running off down the road with it. Yeah, that's cool. Mitch Hayman's got an interesting video comparing the Helix floor and the Helix stomp. That conversion, that would be interesting. See that at least. But just if we can have a quick talk about Rory's legacy, really, because I think it's important that people like, as you've said, the Edge, Slash from Guns N' Roses. We've talked about Brian May, relating how he, him and his mate,
big time Gallagher fan.
Yeah, big time Gallagher fan, and how he got his sound and stuff, which is cool, But also, Johnny Marr of the Smiths, Alex Lifeson of Rush, James Dean Bradfield of the Mount Street Preachers, lots of people, obviously Gary Moore, Joe Bonamassa, influences. So his influence continues, and the interesting part for me in that list of people is that how many of them are not blues players. Yeah, if you think, the Edge is not, he's not a classic blues player by some distance. I mean, Slash is a bit more, but he's more a rock
Johnny
player.
Marr,
Johnny Marr's not a blues player, is he?
absolutely not.
Alex Lifeson of Rush, he's not a blues player, is he? Really, like Rush, are not a blues band. Obviously, Gary Moore and Joe Bonner are, but James Dean Bradfield, from the Manchester, he's not a, he's not a blues player. So I think it's
wow.
it's and I think it's yes, I know, hack shock horror probe, isn't it? You've only just discovered.
Who's Alice Crowd?
And that's another show all of its own. Dr. Crowley, yes.
It's not a Black Sabbath record, is it? Oh no, he's actually he was a person.
He's a real person. Do what thou will be the whole of the law. And that doesn't mean I know anything about it. It means I can remember a catchphrase. Magic with a K. But yes, I think it's I think, Jack, you're right. Rory's legacy is more with other musicians and with the general public. I don't think sort of faded from view in the general public thing. But other musicians, and they go back and you can see him play and take something from that. And I think it's that it's really cool. That thing. I'll just guys, just as you other people have turned on the chat. I don't know. I found this on the internet, and I think this is great fun. This is a gig I went to. So this is the gig I went to see Rory Gallagher, 74. This is his rider letter saying what he... Oh, can't hold it still. People can read it. So that's the letter asking the promoter for the rider. And below it, I've got a couple of tickets. I don't know if you can see those. Look at that. ATP, 1974. You could see Rory Gallagher for ATP. I just thought they were really good fun. And Rory, for his rider, he wanted a crate of Guinness, a crate of lager, a bottle of Irish whiskey, and various mixers. And none of your M&Ms without the brown ones, nonsense or stuff like that. Just a meal for the crew. So I think that's perfect summation of the modesty and of Rory Gallagher. Really, it's kind of as I say, that's for the gig I went to see in 74, which I think is really cool. Cost ATP. And I've talked on here before about how little gigs cost. And an album would have been £2.50. So it would have been three times the cost.
Could you buy booze at that venue, Simon? Was it a licensed venue?
Oh yeah, bars and stuff. Yeah.
So that's how they obviously got a lot of money too. People would come in.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yes, but they're all those halls, concert halls are all. Excuse me, they're all licensed premises. So yeah, you could go out and get a beer and kind of What I can't remember is whether you could. I don't remember. I don't think you could take beer into the auditorium. I think if you bought a beer at the bar, you had to drink it at the bar, and you couldn't take it into the. Too much danger of glasses throwing or something. Going on to actually thing that it's. I think Jack. I agree. Yes. Gary Moore in the same way. Yeah. And Tin Lizzie. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, don't appreciate people's whole careers. You just get a snapshot of a bit of it, don't you? Kind of thing, which I think is right, really. And I think that it's a musician's thing as well. Musicians will go back, find things, and check things out and stuff like that.
I've been in that situation myself. I remember in '94 or '95, I think, when Blues for Greenie came out, and I was working with a couple of cats, and we were talking about that album because a couple of them were Fleetwood Mac guys, so we were listening to it. And I remember having a conversation with them saying, that Gary Moore was in Thin Lizzy. And they said, bullshit, Yeah, so that's part of that legacy of just doing some archaeology, going back and finding out. But yeah, I couldn't pull out my phone and Google Wikipedia back then. But yeah, I've been part of a conversation where guys said, no, Gary Moore was never in Thin Lizzy.
Oh, yes, he was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. Yeah. So you, it's very easy to only have snapshots of maybe one or two bits of people's careers, and not all of it, and not the influences they had, and and the influence they have over musicians coming through. So I completely agree with you that that's the case. That, and as Jack says, there's a kind of musicians. Yes, yes, yeah. That kind of legacy. Hopefully, people go back and they find it. There's plenty of stuff to find, isn't there? You know, things lead you to other things, don't they? And things. So, I think that it, the best thing about Rory is he played like himself. He had his own thing. And and his personality kind of. The audience reacted to that personality, didn't that kind of diffident person, kind of thing. Here's another one. Hope you like it. And off you go, kind of thing. Not taking it for granted, not thinking, thinking that you couldn't, you couldn't just sit back on your laurels and just play. You had to be on it, playing with passion and with whatever. Yeah. So, Hack asks, he went to see the Who this week. What are your thoughts on the Who guys?
Oh wow.
Yeah, he went to see him this week. Yeah. I think it was pretty good. Yeah. I think overall, I think he said that Daltrey lost his voice a bit in the end, which I'm not surprised. I don't know how long he's doing. God, he's in his 70s. It's it's.
So the problem with Roger is that his songs, he can't rap to them like the Rolling Stones, like Mick can. See, Mick's not singing, Mick's rapping, and he's been doing that for a long, long time.
Really, does he has that kind of half-spoken kind of drawl thing going on? Puts his American accent on.
Satisfaction, he can. But the Who songs, you got to sing them.
Yeah. And you've got to do the scream, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to do the greatest scream in rock music. Won't go forward again. Yes, and I mustn't. But I think it's cool that they're still out playing and kind of taking it out, and people are still wanting to go and see them. What else are they going to do? Yeah, Roger Daltrey, salmon fisher, salmon farm or something. I don't know if he does that anymore, but yes, Jack, yes, who? It's so I don't know if it's kind of I think that it's cool that they're still playing, and it's cool that people want to go out and see them. Why not? You're a musician, go out and play. I think it's difficult. The line, of course, is always, when do you stop? When does it become, when does it become something that actually I'm not hitting enough of the notes, or I'm not being able to perform. And I guess it's that thing about, there's two things, isn't there? There's a thing about being able to perform, but there's also being able to perform a tour. If you think about, you have to go out and do, if you do 20 dates, 50 dates, whatever it is, your voice and your in your 70s, your body has to better stand up to, doing those dates.
Well, the Stones are only doing 6, 8, or 12 shows on a tour now, Simon.
Do they?
do
Yeah.
they do short tours now.
Do 2 or 3 weeks, and when they have gaps in between, I guess they have day off in between country. Yeah. It's
But, they're not doing like 40 shows or in 1 month,
night after night. No,
like they did in the 70s. Where they were just
no. It's interesting. Hack says Roger still sounded great though. Yeah. Still able to do it, for the most part. And he says they're touring with a small orchestra and conductor. It was great production. Yeah, and I imagine the sound was really good. And and that's really cool. And I think obviously you're able to cover a lot of ground if you've got an orchestra and things. Do the Tommy stuff and things like that. Yeah, which is gives you a lot of scope. and he's got a lot of songs to choose from. Yeah, yes, I saw that. Yes, and that's the question for Angus at this time. Well, Jack, do you not think that
It's always
rock
going
and
to
roll?
remind us about him.
Yeah. Well, do you not think that I've said this before that there's going to come a point where there's going to be like football, you're going to have substitutes. Tonight, the role of Angus Young will be played by George Young or whoever his nephew is or whatever. And
Hey.
tonight, yes, tonight the role of Slash will be taken by some other kid or something. It's like tonight the role of Keith Richards will be taken by some. It's like the Rolling Stones will become a sort of an entity that tours with no original members, and but they have a link because they've been chosen by Mick to carry on the flame, and kind of
Apostolic continuity has been passed down.
Yes, that's right. It's been passed down. It's a bit. Yeah. So you've turned them into a football club. So every year you buy new players, kind of thing. I think we need to draft in a new rhythm guitarist, kind of thing. And all of a sudden you're 40 years down the line. None of the original members are in any way, shape, or alive of any. And it's 3 more generations of Although the Youngs, I mean, they seem to have an unlimited amount of people of other relatives who can play, can't they? So they're all still called Young, but they're just not called Angus. George has taken over the mantle, from Angus. He's passed him the flame of AC/DC, and he's got in, some of his other cousins and various other. Phil Rudd's nephew to play drums or whatever, great grandson. I think this has a. See, you think so, Jack? The Young family's going to run out of relatives and know how to play guitar. Not if they train them from a young age. You'd be fine for years to come. I think, Hack, I can see that. Tommy, as I said, Tommy and Quadrophenia sounded great with the orchestra. Yeah, what do they have? Like a sort of 10-piece or something, 15-piece orchestra. Sounds like Foreigner.
What they'll do is they'll get Jack Daniels to do lead guitar for AC/DC, and they'll say that Jack Daniels is the son of
his name.
The son
Jack
of a
Young.
that Angus had in a Melbourne suburb for 3 months back in 1978. The illegitimate child.
Well,
and it's $3 million, Jack, for you to say that's true.
Yes, make it up on Wikipedia. Everyone else does. It's I like that idea. It's a bit like the Ramones, isn't it? Johnny Ramone, Dee Dee Ramone, called Ramones. Like, they could have anybody. Drew, Joey. I think this idea has legs. Tonight, the role of Keith Richards will be taken by. And they can wheel Keith on at the end to wave, to show it gives him his blessing or something. Oh, lovely! I see this. I think it's only 3 chords, Jack. Yeah, see, you haven't got much to learn, have you? See, how dangerous a statement is that? It's only 3 chords. I've heard that a lot. Oh, it's only 3 chords. 3 chords and the truth. Oh dear. So anyway, that's my theory. They'll all still be going in 50 years' time with substitutes. As Hack says, it sounds like Foreigner. Obviously, Foreigner's still going without any original members. But quite a lot of bands are like that, aren't they? People who've
got a Filipino singing. That's Journey. Journey.
Was he in a Journey tribute band?
Yeah.
Is that right? Was he in a Journey tribute band?
Guy, and he sounds remarkably like Perry. Wow.
Yeah. Steve Perry. Yeah. Yes, you see to Hack says Kiss always talk about continuing with new guys in makeup. You see, you never know, would you, Hack? You'd have to do tongue measurements to get the Gene Simmons character right. But beyond a certain point, with all that makeup, you'd never know if they were 20-year-olds, would you? Gene still raking in the cash in his 80s, sending out Kiss incarnations of Kiss. Well, then you see, then you could have one incarnation touring America, another incarnation touring the Far East. I mean, you could, it's, you could be in multiple places at once. How is this not a good idea? No, nobody said anything about wrecking the legacy of these rock bands. Yeah, but you see, Kiss is a brilliant example of you could get away with almost anything, couldn't you? How many times they've played and they've substituted in somebody else, put the makeup on, no one will know. You'll be fine. Ah, dear. Anyway. I think we've come to the end of Rory Gallagher. I think I have nothing more to say on the man, really, except go and check his records out. Go and check his music out. Really
tour.
Good. Yeah. The Irish Tour 74. European live ones, they're the places to start. But the albums all have merit as well. Deuce, Rory Gallagher.
I discovered Rory in my late 20s through a work colleague. I'd heard of Rory, but when you've had half a dozen beers and you sit down and listen to that Irish tour, and you're a rock and roller, you're going to fall in love with it.
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? There is, that kind of 12 bar is a kind of now a niche thing, isn't it? And that quite sort of straight ahead 12 bar stuff as well, kind of major key stuff as well. There's a lot of fancy chords played in the blues now. They've taken it to other places, but that kind of much rawer, straightforward. Yeah, whatever happened to major keys? Playing A major and then D major, and kind of thing. It's a kind of slightly more different. Sort of it seems slightly anachronistic these days. Kind of older way of doing it, really. With those kind of major keys and stuff like that. But but that fire and that kind of that commitment to his music. I mean, there's a lesson to us all there, isn't there, about that? I went out and I played to the audience, and I had an effect. And I think that's pretty cool myself. That for Rory, in the 70s in Belfast, he had an effect.
And in Dublin, you're right, Simon.
Yeah,
he was playing in Dublin, and then playing in Belfast. And Belfast, like you said earlier, was a town under siege.
Yeah, completely. Jack Daniels, when one of them did the split, could actually stand up again, you'll know they've substituted in Kiss. They went from unmasked to remasked for a reason. Yeah, none of the original members. Conspiracy theories. We could do whole shows on conspiracy theories, couldn't we? That's our second conspiracy theory. There's no basis in fact whatsoever. We have Keith Richards no longer plays live. He just pretends, and there are no original members of Kiss because they're all other people.
Yeah. Because they're wearing masks.
Yeah, they're wearing makeup, you see, so you can't tell whether the original people or not.
And if you look at Paul Stanley now, it's hard. Is that really Paul Stanley without Paul the makeup? Is that really? He's been dead 20 years.
Gene's going to come after us, isn't he? He's going to demand. There are people on the internet, Gene, saying there are no original members of Kiss playing right now.
Sorry, Guitar Hack. We're sorry. We,
Look,
we know you're a Kiss nut. We're sorry.
We're laying to waste to your love of Kiss, and that's not fair. I just think my substitution thing has legs, many. Yeah, nobody told him. I think that's about right. Yes.
So
He's been dead since
that's a zombie.
1976. Yeah.
So these zombie films are real.
It's a robot. It's just his skin stretched over a frame with electric motors. It's amazing what you could do with special effects these days. Oh dear. Marvelous. Look at that. Just yes. If just go off a particular tangent here. If anybody, I don't know if anybody, I was telling this to Andrew before we came on. If anybody hasn't seen the new Tool CD, which has an LCD screen in it that displays images and stuff whilst you're playing it, I mean, a lot, that's worth checking out. That's a game changer in sort of what they've done. I think they've only made a certain number, and they cost $40 or something to buy.
Wow.
Which interesting marketing thing. I think they made a few more because they got a bit overwhelmed by the amount of people who wanted to buy it. But that kind of exclusivity thing.
How many years has that been between records, Simon? 15 years?
It's ages, isn't it? Tool. I'm not a Tool person by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been a long time. They spent a long time between them, didn't they? Yeah. But yeah, it's worth checking out, guys. If you're interested in that sort of thing, amazing kind of step forward in technology using an LCD screen to display moving images. Soon you can have the videos of all the songs, or you can have great impressionistic films that back them up, and all sorts of things. So you're going to do that. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing thing.
So I'm going to give the guys in the chat a bit of a heads up. So Simon and I are going to be leading. I'm not sure when we have to have a chat to Carl, but it's coming up. We're going to be leading a couple of shows, well, a few shows actually on the Beatles and their albums and their effect and legacy on us for guitar players. So I certainly look forward to those half a dozen shows. Yeah.
There. Yes.
Yeah. I certainly look forward to those. So yeah, that'll be cool. So if you guys are Beatles nuts and want to check
it's to coincide with the 50th anniversary of Abbey Road. That's what we're lining a few things up for. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. And, so that'll be the first show on Abbey Road.
Yeah. Good night, Hack. Sleep well. Thanks for dropping by.
Good night, Hack. Yeah, always a pleasure, and enjoy your channel, brother. Love it.
Yeah. Keep at it. 1,000 subscribers is minutes away.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about tomorrow as well, Andrew?
Yeah. So tomorrow, Carl and I and Simon, around this time, maybe in another 30 minutes, because it's 7:30 here in the evening in New Zealand, 8 p.m. tomorrow New Zealand time, we're going to have a show with a guy called Richard Fox, who's one of New Zealand's famous Rolling Stones fans. He's a Rolling Stones nut. He's been to over 50 Rolling Stones gigs. In fact, last week he flew out of New Zealand on Thursday evening to catch the show in Miami and flew back to be at work on Monday. So if you guys want to check out tomorrow's show with us,
we'll be on again.
And I appreciate Simon. It's a little bit easier for Carl and I because it's in the evening here. in New Zealand. So we tried to get Richard on for a show at this time, but it just doesn't work for him. So
no, that's fine. That's all right. Well, tomorrow, tomorrow at this time will be 9 o'clock for me, so the kids will have gone to school. So I'll take a couple of days, couple of hours out of my working day to do something.
why not? You do enough for them.
Yes. They can cope.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, we'll be on tomorrow morning about in about half an hour. So 9 a.m. UK time. I don't know, 8 o'clock p.m. New Zealand time. I don't know what that time is. Is in America. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, probably. But 4 and then 9, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, not very late. No, they'll be getting up for work. Anyway, cool. So yes, that's us tomorrow and for the next few weeks. So hopefully some of you can make it. It'll be fun.
And I appreciate you giving me some heads up there, and I'm sure the guys in the chat appreciated you giving us some tips and some background into Rory Gallagher, because a little bit of an underground player, isn't he?
Yeah. These days, yeah. That's the thing about dying early, isn't it? You die in 95, 96. You know, you're kind of that's as we said 25 years ago, kind of thing, or 24 years ago. You know, it's you slip out of the consciousness, don't you? For new people coming through.
All right, I'll let you.
Good. Let me say thanks to Jack Daniels, Arvin, Gaunt, thank you very much. Hack, thanks for dropping by, guys. Anyone else? I think it's those three tonight. Mitch Heyman, of course, and who else did we have? Not miss anybody. Who else besides Mitch? I'm sure there's somebody else I missed. No, Mitch as well. No, I think that's it. So thank you very much, guys, for dropping by and contributing. Always really good.
We had a couple of lurkers watching us too.
Good, that's okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much to the lurkers. That's very cool.
We had people there at one stage watching us. So
cool.
Yeah, and I appreciate the lurkers too.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, guys. Bye.